Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Rahmetova and I'm a teacher of English. So, welcome to our online lesson. The topic that I have today is investigate and report on animal world, but mostly I focused on animals in captivity. And unit topic is functions of language. This is the 12th lesson of our unit. And during this unit, students learn such kind of terms like ethos, pathos, logos. They are appeals of Aristotle's triangle and the audience, purpose and manipulation. So this lesson is for pre-DP language B students. It is designed in accordance with the IB requirements for MYP language B guide. So this is for 10th grade students. In this lesson, students will practice by taking active part in Harkness discussion and try to identify the purpose of the author and conventions. So, in order to take part in discussion, they should know different things and they should be able to find different conventions that they learned. So the aim is to develop students' individual voice and academic confidence by making inference from information, main ideas and supporting details. So they should work with different resources where they will try to analyze and try to draw conclusions. They will investigate the purpose, the audience, why did the author choose different kinds of techniques in order to persuade people. So learning objectives, we have 3 learning objectives. Student will be able to recognize the key terms, develop critical thinking skills through analyzing resources, make inferences and draw conclusions by responding to the different text types. And also, as I'm working in IB school, so we have key concept that is communication. Communication is the exchange or transfer of signals, facts, ideas and symbols. So here by exchange we mean exchange of ideas, as we have as a final work discussion, so they should exchange their ideas, and the transfer, they should transfer some information from different text types. It requires a sender, a message, and intended receiver. Communication involves the activity of conveying information or meaning. Effective communication requires a common language, which may be written, spoken, or non-verbal. So also we have 3 related concepts: audience, bias and purpose. They are the main terms in our unit. So the audience refers to whomever a text or performance is aimed at, the reader, the listener or the viewer. Bias refers to a conscious distortion or exaggeration which usually expresses prejudice or partiality. And the purpose for communicating can be, for example, to entertain, to recount, to socialize, to inquire, to inform, to persuade, to explain, and to instruct. In our case, it's to persuade. In literary terms, the creator's intentions in persuading the text. This concept could also engage students in exploration of meaning, thesis argument, gender, bias, persuasive techniques, function, critical stance, and message. So, the following is the global context, identities, and relationship. So, we mean by identities here different identities of authors, audience, and by relationship we mean the relationship between audience and author and their attitude to different values that we have in our society. The statement of inquiry of our unit: the author's use of language and purpose changes depending on the audience. So in order to deliver the message, First of all, authors should know the audience, and only after that they choose different kinds of methods in order to persuade other people. So in order to develop the exact skills, we should know what kind of final product we will have at the end of the unit. And at the end of the unit, students will have Harkness discussion. I will tell about that later. So, and they will be assessed by 3 criteria. They are A, B, C, comprehending spoken and visual text. This is according to the videos that we are going to take for our today's lesson. Comprehending written and visual text. So here I should mention that this procedure of our lesson started in our previous lesson. So there are 2 articles according to animals, especially animals in captivity. So they analyzed them, and today they are going to analyze according to criterion A. They are going to investigate those things that are necessary in our unit. And the last one, criterion C, communicating in response to written, visual and spoken texts. So that means that they will communicate and give evidence from the text. Today they are going to have formative work and they will practice. And after the lesson they will have some self-reflection and feedback from the teacher. Mostly feedback will be given on next lesson, so students will understand how to speak, how to lead the discussion in order to achieve high level. So before teaching, I asked some questions, how to involve all students in discussion. So it's known that we have different kinds of students, they have different kinds of character traits, and some of them are shy and some of them are really active and they are leading the discussion, but we should pay attention to all students and try to involve all of them for our lesson. And the next question, to what extent do the resources I picked fit with the unit and give students enough information to share their ideas during discussion? So here, when I chose the resources, I thought about the information, whether they have enough information or not, so they can continue their discussion during the definite time. How did I feel before teaching? I felt confident in choosing this topic for discussion because I am aware of the students' interest. They are really interested in animals, and on our previous lessons they mentioned about it, and I thought that we can take exactly this fear, exactly this problem in our society. So here you can see the questions of our unit, factual, conceptual and debatable questions, but today's lesson will be devoted to the question, how does the author manipulate the audience? So at the end of the lesson they should answer to this question based on 3 different resources. Here is the lesson procedure. So first of all, they will brainstorm their ideas. They will given a chance to watch the video twice, which is called No Place Like Home. So then the vision of the Harkness discussion rules. We try to take some parts of this discussion in order to develop some skills so they can really good have understanding of this discussion, then Harkness discussion itself, and then self-reflection. What do they think according to their participation in this discussion? Before showing the video, they should look at these questions again. Also, they worked with these questions when they analyzed the text and they inquired some things in order to analyze and make conclusions. how does the author manipulate the audience in the article? So I mentioned you that there are 2 articles. They prepared specific examples from texts. The next is how does the video manipulate the audience? They also have to prepare some specific examples from texts, especially from the video that they are going to watch. Then the third one, to what extent do either or both the article and or video convince you of their perspective? So here they should try to understand their viewpoint, and they should tell it during the discussion. Can we manipulate the audience by language? So here think of all of the texts that we have looked at to answer this question. These questions are for students. And now I'd like you also to watch this video and try to understand what is the purpose, what kind of conventions do the author use, and I will remind you eases, paces, and logos. Try to find them from this video.
Most people have been to a zoo, safari park or aquarium at some time. For many, it's just a day out. Others believe zoos are essential to stop animals becoming extinct. But are zoos acceptable anymore? Do they really save endangered species? Or are they simply there for our amusement? Zoos would have us believe that things have changed dramatically over recent years. Animals are no longer in cages, but in naturalistic habitats, or so they say. But what difference does it make to the inmates? Every species is adapted for its own unique environment and occupies a specialised place in the ecosystem. Climate, social group, diet, these and many more aspects of their lives are crucial to their welfare. So how can these needs be met for such a variety of species in a zoo, especially when they have animals from all around the world, from koalas native to Australian eucalyptus forests to a polar bear from the Arctic?
One of the major behaviors that zoo visitors see is this stereotype pacing. Bears will walk to the end of their enclosure and they'll do a stereotyped head swipe up and walk to the other side and do the same thing like that. And you can actually map the route that they take. There's no challenges at all to enrich their lives.
Big cats like leopards, tigers and lions, they will often show signs of stereotypic behaviour, and what they will do is they will pace around their enclosure. And visitors will often stand there and say, oh look, they're marking their territory. They don't have any territory to mark, they have this tiny, tiny zoo enclosure. And their way of coping with the relentless boredom that they face day on day is to pace. And they will mark out exactly the same routes around their enclosure. They will even use the same pause. And once they've got to the end, they start again and again and again and again. And they will repeat this behaviour for many, many hours. And stereotypic behaviour comes from an animal who has simply become bored in the environment that it's living in.
Elephants, the largest and most powerful of the land mammals, live in complex family groups and can travel as far as 80 kilometres a day. These intelligent and majestic creatures live 3 times longer in the wild than they do in zoos. Lions, the most social of the big cats, reach speeds of up to 58 kilometres per hour when hunting. A study by Oxford University scientists found that 40% of elephants in zoos perform stereotypic behaviours, and lions spend 48% of their time pacing. Space for animals in zoos is obviously limited. Lions and other big cats have 18,000 times less space in zoos than they would in the wild. That figure rises to 1 million times less space for captive polar bears. Sharks often get injuries to their snouts from repeatedly knocking into the tank walls. It's not just a matter of space, but also the quality of the environment. Primates have seen their forest homes exchanged for little more than a playground climbing frame. And this fox is kept in a pit-like enclosure without the ability to dig. Can these enclosures really meet the mental and physical needs of animals for a few days? Let alone years. Indoor enclosures are even more likely to fail the animal's needs. Yet this is where many spend long hours, either overnight or in bad weather.
So now I'd like just to ask, could you understand the viewpoint of the author, and could you identify what kind of appeals our author used? So mostly the author used appeal to reason, that is logos. For example, he told us about stereotypical behavior. If we take as an example the elephants, so they have less than 80,000 kilometers in order to walk, and also polar bears have 1 million times less place in order to behave themselves naturally according to their own nature. So here we have also other appeals that the author used, and students have to identify them and use them during the discussion. And the next is Harkness discussion, our main activity. During the lesson we shouldn't have a lot of activities, because having less activities will be more productive in order to build necessary skills. So here, as you see, the scheme of Harkness discussion, they will have round or oval table, and you see every student's name is written around this table, and according to these lines we can see their activeness during the lesson. So in some places we can notice that some students are not active, and according to these notes they will be graded. And also my suggestion is to use your laptop in order to record their discussion. So I would like to tell you about this type of discussion. So Harkness discussion method usually promotes student-centered, discussion-based learning, so students own the resources and the responsibility of understanding by motivating and controlling their own discussion. That's really interesting for students. The teacher acts as little as possible, although she might begin a shift or even direct a discussion. So that means that you can lead, you can only give them directions, and students will lead this discussion by themselves. So first of all, students, we should mention that students will be graded as a whole team, but students who do not participate get marked lower, and students who go above and beyond will get marked up. Here you can see our marks. So in the previous presentation, in the previous slide, you saw that here we have some letters near the students' names, so we can see the full meaning of these letters here. Q is for questions, thoughtful questions, they should know, and especially this skill is already developed. As I told you before, we had some parts of the discussion and we tried to develop them one by one. So the next is T. T for evidence from the text to support their ideas or the idea of another student. C for connect. The student has directly and thoughtfully responded, connected their next thought to the comment of another student. And also we have negative marks here. I is for interruption, they shouldn't interrupt each other. R is for rude attitude to each other. A is for bad attitude regarding the activity, and L is for language. So students shouldn't use other language than English. That will affect on their marks. And also students, first of all, should remember that it is not a competition. They are a team and they should work cooperatively. The goal is to interpret, share and learn from other points of view, to piece together the puzzle using everyone's contribution, although the goals of any discussion will change depending upon what's under discussion. So if you want to use it in your classes, you will adapt it to your lesson, to your theme. Also, it's really good to use with literature books. So we told that they have to ask thoughtful questions. So we worked on the previous lesson with these questions, and they already know these types of questions: open-ended, relational, directed, requesting confirmation and requesting clarification. So they should know how to ask, how to clarify, how to ask directly, how to ask rationally. And here we have Harkness discussion episode. I'd like to show you this episode so you have some understanding about this discussion.
Harkness is a student-directed approach to discussion in the classroom. That's a comment that came up in one of our previous discussions.
Oh, that's right.
Naomi didn't use it?
I have no idea where it is in the Bible. It was
Most people come into their freshman year and they're like, oh my gosh, I have to speak in front of other high schoolers. What are they going to think of me? What if they think I'm dumb? But what was hard for me was to learn, how do I actually support that from the text?
people have messed up. They don't have a second chance.
Almost always in a good Harkness discussion, you always end up with deeper issues.
The first punishment, essentially, for everyone who enters hell is lack of God and therefore lack of hope.
You notice more things than you would if you didn't have to discuss it with your peers. Because, you're using a collective group of information, not just your own.
But what about little children? What about babies?
We're really teaching the kids how to think through positions, how to think critically, how to read text critically. Okay, so we're thinking about God's ordering of the universe. How does hell fit into that? Who is this character, Dante?
I remember freshman year just being absolutely freaked out about the idea of Harkness.
But I think freshman year is really just about kind of figuring out that it's really not that intimidating. It's a great way to learn. It's not supposed to be frightening. It's supposed to be educational, and that's really what it becomes.
Okay,
What do you guys think about that? Yeah.
I think that, okay, so I'm not sure.
So, as you saw, students are sitting around the table and they are talking with each other, and they can easily share their ideas. So we should also develop these skills in our students. And the next thing, and also while this discussion, they should keep all the notes and all their articles. They're allowed to bring their articles, they should bring their articles. And also we use the method of annotation, that is special method of working with the text. So they mark, they underline or highlight those things that are necessary for analyzing, for mentioning. And also we talked about citation, so they have to use evidence while discussion, and they give those evidences. They can ask other students to open the exact article and to read out the exact phrase, so that will be their evidence. And the next is self-reflection. So after this discussion, students will reflect on their speaking skills, and the first one gives info. So according to the information, they will give information to each other, and they can support or give opposite opinion to the info, to their opinion. The next is echoes and restates. So here is example. So you're saying it's a question of ethics and links. This is similar to what Madi said. Makes transition. Now that we understand the event, let's turn to its significance. The next is summarizing. Altogether, we have identified 12 reasons for the outbreak. Interprets. So the meaning of that action is that, so why do you think author wants animals to live in their natural habitat? So they can use this quote in order to express their opinion, share their opinion. Cites the text. Let's look at line 3, where she uses the word, so enhancement, for example. According to this, they will be given some time and they will evaluate themselves. And also I told you that teacher also should give feedback in order to achieve higher level on their summative work. So the comments will be as following: organizing ideas, leading the discussion, summarizing, restating or clarifying the text, then citing specific quotations, passages or pages from the text, asking a question about the text, commenting on the text, giving an opinion or reaction, making a suggestion about text or a discussion, summarizing discussion up to that point, analyzing text or comment or whole discussion, reacting to comments, answering comments, restating discussions, arguing a point. Here we should tell again that they are a team and they shouldn't argue with each other. It's not a debate. So they should remember that they are a team, and I mean giving evidence using ethos, logos and pathos, using outside sources or textual evidence, asking for new information, asking for other comments, reaction, comparing to other works. That means that they had 3 works. First 2 works are articles, and the last one is the video that they used for this discussion. So according to this, I will write them comments, I will collect their self-reflection and write their comments. that will be really useful for them in order to improve those things that they didn't have, they couldn't achieve. And for my lesson I used the following resources. For 2 articles I used also articles from the internet, and the last one, No Place Like Home, was taken from YouTube. And if you have any questions, you can ask. So if you don't have any questions, thank you for your attention. And if you want to contact me in order to know specifics of this method, of this activity, you can find me by typing Rachmetova Elvira nisa.edu.kz.